Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to April. How about it? We did it. I did it. COVID and all. Still got it. Still alive. And getting back to hosting this here show in its normal state. Of course, I can't do it without you and your support. Thanks so much for all of your comments, supports, texts, messages, emails, all of it. And sorry to everybody who is still sick like I am. It hasn't been fun. It hasn't been the worst illness I've ever had, but certainly has been quite burdensome on me and those around me. Luckily, nobody in my family has gotten sick, and it's only those of us, well, about a dozen or so, I'm not sure what the count is at, who were at Pod Jam. Either way, hope you had a great Easter weekend. If you celebrated with family and friends, hopefully that was awesome. And I'm here to get your week kicked off, your day started off, as I am every morning for you, with a great news roundup from the news headquarters at the Shed here on Earth One, and a great conversation with today's big stuff co-writer Sam Youngman, who helped me recap and give analysis on several of the news stories that I missed from last week. Great conversation with Sam coming up at 23 minutes into today's show. But first, I'm going to try to get to your headlines and sound clips from the weekend. I am back. We are back. And I'm so happy to have you here joining me. So let's do it. Let's see. Where should we start? I think maybe an update from and on the Middle East, just the headlines. I've been thinking a lot about what's happened there, what's happening there, and how I've talked about it and covered it, as well as to more of an extent how I haven't. I mean, I've talked about it with a lot of guests, including some specialists, but I haven't focused on it as much as certain other daily programs and others. And while I've enjoyed the coverage of many others, I just find it so complicated to kind of keep up with and understand. So I'll give you the headlines. I'll continue to do that and ask guests and get some specialists on. Let me know who you like on it. As always, would love to hear from you on guest ideas, but let's start with the huge demonstrations that took place over the weekend on Saturday in front of the military headquarters in Tel Aviv, Israel. Tens of thousands of Israelis demonstrated, the biggest protest against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu since the terrorist attack on October 7th. And during those demonstrations, a group of roughly 20 hostage families called on Netanyahu to resign. They say that for his own political reasons, he isn't pushing hard enough for a deal with Hamas. Apparently, he underwent surgery for some kind of a hernia, Netanyahu, yesterday. He was apparently going to be under anesthesia, so everybody needed to know that. But the U.S. and Israel are expected to hold a virtual meeting today, Monday, the 1st of April, to discuss the Biden administration's alternative proposals to an Israeli military invasion of Rafah. For Israeli U.S. officials telling Axios that meeting is going to take place. We'll see about more reporting on that tomorrow. Congressman Tim Walberg, he's a Republican from Michigan. He's facing backlash from Democratic colleagues and others for saying that at a town hall that the Israeli-Hamas war should be handled like Nagasaki and Hiroshima. So yeah, he just wants to nuke those in Gaza. On the other side, Jamal Bowman is demanding that Bibi Netanyahu resign. Democratic Congressman Jamal Bowman called Netanyahu a maniac. In fact, Chuck Schumer's remarks about him, and I think I'll get some audio for you on that. Pope, who hasn't been seen very much, he came out to celebrate Easter. He's not in great condition. 87-year-old, presided over Easter Mass despite health issues that have forced him to curtail his public appearances. Well, he called for a ceasefire in Gaza and the release of Israeli hostages during his traditional Easter address on Sunday. And those are just some of the headlines about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the Israeli invasion and occupation of Gaza, or however you want to look at it, from the weekend. All right, now, the disgraced former president had a crazy weekend. He's facing all kinds of criticism, as always, because this time he posted a video with an image of President Biden bound in the back of a pickup truck on his stupid Truth Social, which apparently is worth some $5 billion. I think that's probably just a bubble. Is it really worth anything? Well, more than a few $1 million? I suppose we'll soon find out. I feel like it's just one big email list, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to sell it and pay his bills. And on Easter morning, he did the most Christian thing. He made like 79 different posts on his third-rate social media platform, attacking congresspeople, Biden, judges, Jon Stewart, 6 posts about poll numbers, a couple posts about endorsements. He got an article claiming Russia collusion was a hoax, an article about his retribution, and he attacked radical leftists. So that's how you knew he had risen on Easter morning. 71 posts of deranged hatred for the holy holiday. Trump finally posting his Easter message, a message of Christian love, which was basically filled with hatred. Happy Easter to all, including all the corrupted, corporate, all that kind of shit. And right-wingers and people who are terrified of trans folks got real fired up when, over the weekend, the White House declared the National Transgender Day of Visibility, which nobody really probably thought as much about outside of those who really think about the issue and support trans folks. And then all of these terrified, upset people were protesting it, and now it's obviously got that much more attention, so I'm not sure if that backfired on the transphobes or not, but President Biden issued the proclamation Friday calling on all Americans to join us in lifting up lives and voices of transgender people throughout our nation and to work toward eliminating violence and discrimination based on gender identity. You got it, sir. On the case. Of course, everybody will ignore the statement from the president on Easter, which said, in part, Jill and I send our warmest wishes to Christians around the world celebrating Easter Sunday. Easter reminds us of the power of hope and the promise of Christ's resurrection. As we gather with loved ones, we remember Jesus' sacrifice. We pray for one another and cherish the blessing of the dawn of new possibilities. You went on and on a little bit more, but just reading that to say that, of course, the White House put out a statement on Easter as well, in case any of the idiots are saying that he didn't and he was just celebrating transgender folks. All right, what else can I tell you? The men's Final Four is set. NC State, with a major upset of Duke, is headed to the Final Four, along with Purdue, Alabama, and UConn, who appears to be the strong favorite, the University of Connecticut. Watched a little basketball over the weekend while I was trying to recover. Very exciting. If you like college sports, college basketball, the tournament Final Four now ends in Glendale, Arizona this coming weekend. Did I mention April 1st? Happy April Fool's Day, everybody. Do you do that? Are you getting pranked about anything, huh? I'm not a big fan of those pranks, but I'm sure some of you will try to pull them on me nonetheless. Back to your headlines. Telecom company AT&T. Who are my AT&T people? They said yesterday that a data set released on the dark web about 2 weeks ago has impacted approximately 7.6 million current account holders and 65.4 million former account holders based on the company's preliminary analysis of the incident. So hopefully that doesn't affect you, but just in case, there you have it. Heading back to Washington, the Biden administration announced pollution rules meant to increase sales of electric or other zero-emission heavy vehicles like school buses, ambulances, and RVs. A note on inflation. Still running slightly above the Federal Reserve's 2% target. The Fed Chair Jerome Powell said he was in, quote, no hurry to cut interest rates, so that's good. A federal judge ordered New Jersey to redesign its primary election ballot. Congressman Andy Kim, Democrat running for U.S. Senate, has challenged the old design, which gave preferential placement to local leaders' preferred candidates. Let's go to the Food and Drug Administration, which warned that these specific heart pumps, Impella heart pumps, which are used as temporary implants, have been linked to 49 deaths and dozens of injuries. That's what the FDA is supposed to be doing, so that is why I read that headline. Tomorrow, Connecticut, New York, and Rhode Island and Wisconsin will hold their primaries. This week, disgraced former President Trump has Thursday until he has to post a $175 million bond in his New York civil fraud case as an appeals court lowered the amount and gave him a little more time. A woman in Texas is falsely charged with murder after using an abortion pill, filed a lawsuit against their local prosecutor's office, and leaders will see how high that goes. Thousands gathered on Long Island for the funeral of a New York City police officer who was shot to death in the line of duty. His funeral became a political flashpoint, of course. Trump attended it. There was a lot said about that over the weekend. And just a couple of other things. I saw this headline. Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine have the highest share of adults who say they never or seldom attend church or religious services. I thought that was interesting. Based on Easter Sunday, 75% in Vermont, 66% in New Hampshire, 66% in Maine as well, compared to the national average of 49%, according to Axios analysis of a recent survey data. More than 3/4 of Americans say religion's role in public life is shrinking. And that is the point I was trying to make at last week's Hangout. That is why the stand-up community and other communities similar to it have begun to grow, I think, as a result, to replace the traditional religious communities that people used to meet folks, like-minded folks at. So welcome to our community. It's not a religion. It's not a cult. Just a lot of really cool people trying to navigate the way forward here on Earth One. And we welcome all religious folks, too. Lots of religious members here in the stand-up community as well. You're all welcome with peace and love. But yeah, that's the highest level of Americans since the group first started tracking such sentiment in 2001. Sad news that Louis Gossett Jr. died over the weekend. He was the first black performer to win an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, also won an Emmy for Roots. He died. He was 87 years old, and I feel embarrassed that one of my favorite roles was as Chappie Sinclair, veteran naval pilot and trainer in the movie Iron Eagle. I don't know. I love that movie. Chappie. Louis Gossett was awesome. A lot of great tributes being paid to him over the weekend. And my final headline for you in today's headlines is that trillions of cicadas are set to invade the United States for the first time in 221 years, according to scientists. In late April, 2 large broods of periodical cicadas are expected to emerge from the ground for a noising mating frenzy. And so will I. What? Billions, even trillions of cicadas are going to emerge at the same time across 17 states. They've been living underground for 17 and 13 years, respectively. They'll soon emerge at the same time for the first time in 221 years. Periodical broods are found in eastern North America and tend to emerge in large numbers. I'll have to ask Kevin Richburg about that this Thursday. That's supposed to happen in late April, so get ready. Also, the eclipse. Are you planning? Are you plotting? Are you traveling and paying attention to that? Once-in-a-lifetime event? Who's excited? Should we have a breakout group for those who are planning to watch it? Should we watch it together? I don't hear anybody talking about the April 8th eclipse, so maybe there should be a chat for that in the Discord. If you are a subscriber, by the way, and you aren't active on the Discord platform, you're missing out some real fun, interesting things, as always, each and every day there. And like Garrett Sever saying, you're never alone in the stand-up community, and also because of the Discord platform. Thank you to John V, who created that for us, brought us over there. A lot of people active and talking, and all kinds of different breakout groups in that. So check it out if you haven't already, and if you need help getting there, email me and I'll hook you up. standupwithpete@gmail.com. Not all of us are tech savvy. Many of us are not, but we don't want you to miss out on anything that we are doing, thinking, or talking about. So get involved and join the Discord platform now. And now let's get to some of those audio bites that I have not shared with you in a couple weeks. I think we'll start with CBS's Face the Nation, where Ed O'Keefe was sitting in for the normal anchor Margaret Brennan, and he had Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott on. He's being asked this question about how Republicans and other critics are calling him the DEI mayor, and I just love this guy.
Thrown around. And in the case of this accident, some downright nasty things said about you online this week. I've got to ask you, one of the wilder things is some conservative critics blamed the bridge collapse on diversity, equity, and inclusion policies in Maryland. Diversity, equity, inclusion, better known as DEI to a lot of people. They called you, some critics did, the DEI mayor. What did you make of that when you heard it?
Well, as I've said already this week, we know, listen, I am a young black man, a young black mayor in this country. We know that there are a lot of racists and folks who don't think I should be in this job. I know that. I've been black my whole life. I know how racist and racism goes in this country, but my focus is always going to be on those people. I didn't want to be out there that night answering questions about DEI. I'm worried about the loss of life. We know how ridiculous that is. Those folks are afraid, as I said this week, to use the N-word. This should not be even in conversation. We have to remain focused on the mission at hand and continue, from my vantage point, to prove those people wrong about people that look like me by doing my job in the best way that I can and ignoring the noise of folks who simply want to be divisive and are afraid that their way of life, where people that don't look like them and think like them can be in control, can be in power, and actually be better at the job.
Well, we thank you for spending
another great answer from the mayor of Baltimore. And let's check on the governor of Maryland, my old friend Wes Moore, who is a hero for all kinds of reasons. Really great guy. Love him. Got to know him years ago through my work with the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. Hope to interview him soon. We were in touch when he was campaigning, but I didn't get to land the interview, but I'll keep trying. Here he was on CNN's State of the Union answering a similar question from Dana Bash.
Governor, some Republicans are trying to blame the bridge collapse on policies that encourage workplace diversity. A Utah state representative who is running for governor tweeted, quote, "This is what happens when you have governors who prioritize diversity over the well-being and security of citizens." Another Republican running for Congress in Florida posted, "DEI did this." What's your response?
My response is I have no time for foolishness. I'm locked in. I'm making sure that we can get closure and comfort to these families. I'm making sure that we're going to keep our first responders safe who are doing heroic work. I'm making sure that we are going to open up this channel and be able to get boats and ships and get our economic engine going again. I'm making sure that we're taking care of our people, to include our first responders and families and small businesses who have been impacted by this. And I'm making sure that we are going to get the Key Bridge rebuilt. I have no time for foolishness, and so I'm not going to delve into it.
You call it foolishness. The mayor of Baltimore seemed to go in a different direction. He is black, and he was described in an online post that got millions of views as the DEI mayor. He responded by saying, "We know what they say, what they want to say, but they don't have the courage to say the N-word." Is this racism?
My focus on making sure these families are getting the comfort and the closure that they need, making sure that our first responders are getting the supports that they need, making sure that we can get these channels open, and making sure that we can get this Key Bridge rebuilt. I frankly do not have time to be able to deal with anything else. I'm locked in, and I'm focused on what matters right now.
All right. Yeah, he doesn't want to even address it. So good for him, Wes Moore. A lot of chatter about the Trump Bibles on the Sunday shows and the weekend shows as well. Here is Congressman Mike Turner. He's a Republican and a Trump supporter. Here he was asked about selling the $60 Bibles on Face the Nation again with Ed O'Keefe, and this is what he had to say. Oh, he's not going to get a Trump Bible. Oh, I was sure that he was going to get one. Well, good for him. He really took a strong stand there. And a great pivot to bash the current president, who's actually a practicing Catholic, who goes to church. Well, a lot of people were criticizing the new anchor of Meet the Press. Again, here's Kristen Welker framing things in a way that many progressives, anti-Trump types did not like. That's the part people did not like. A reminder that we are covering this election against the backdrop of a deeply divided nation. They had a split screen of Biden and Trump there, and a lot of people had comments about that. One side wants to use political murder to intimidate away judicial oversight. The other side says that's bad and wrong. This morning on Meet the Press, David Roberts says you cannot parody this. Another tweet about that comment. It's truly a shame that our nation has been so deeply divided since January 6th, an event that took place against the backdrop of deeply divided election in which the clear loser tried to stay in power through lies, cheating, and violence. Just a few takes on her framing. Folks do not like it. All right, here's another interesting clip for you. I mentioned it in the news headlines. This is Democratic Congressman Jamal Bowman of New York. He called Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu a maniac, demanded he be removed from office amid the ongoing war with Hamas. Here he is on MSNBC with Alex Witt this weekend.
This is about our humanity, and this is about our morality. We have hundreds of thousands of children starving to death in Gaza right now as we speak. The majority of the American people support a permanent ceasefire. The majority of my district supports a permanent ceasefire. We need a permanent ceasefire. We need to bring in hundreds of trucks that are 5 miles away from Gaza right now of aid to save as many lives as possible. There's a humanitarian crisis. The majority of Gaza has already been destroyed through acts of collective punishment by this maniac, Benjamin Netanyahu. I'm 100% with Senator Schumer. He needs to be removed. He is a blockade to a pathway to peace. And we need a ceasefire right now. That's what we should be focused on, humanitarian aid, not weapons.
All right. There you go. Well, that is your headlines and your audio, except for this final clip, which is some jokes, some comedy. I like to end the news segment with some laughs whenever possible, pretty much every time, with a clip from a comedian or comedians that is relevant and topical. And, of course, Saturday Night Live was live over the weekend with host Ramzi Youssef, who I actually know. I met him when he was first starting out as a comedian as part of the Arab American Comedy Festival, and I saw him last year, and he's very, very kind to me, and I like him a lot and thought he did a great job. But here is One of my favorite segments every week, it's the Weekend Update with Colin Jost and Michael Che.
4 presidents visited New York City at the same time on Thursday, 3 to do a joint fundraiser at Radio City, and 1 selling Bibles door to door. Donald Trump has partnered with country music star Lee Greenwood to sell a $60 special edition of the Bible that also includes the Constitution, the lyrics to Greenwood's God Bless the USA, and I assume God's letter of resignation. This Bible is mostly the same, but Trump's version ends with Jesus' disciples storming Jerusalem to overturn the results of the crucifixion. Trump also posted this video urging his followers to buy it.
All Americans need a Bible in their home, and I have many.
Many. I actually believe he has many Bibles. I'm sure he's been sent thousands of Bibles with a note that says, please read this.
More than 5,000 people attended a Democratic fundraiser at Radio City Music Hall featuring big-name celebrities like Barack Obama, Stephen Colbert, and Lizzo, as well as lesser-known celebrities like President Joe Biden.
This week, Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed after it was struck by a cargo ship that was carrying, you won't believe it, Boeing airplanes.
President Biden said Friday that he would visit the site of the Baltimore bridge collapse because, like that bridge, Biden is no longer connecting with black communities.
You
got to read the polls.
Wow. Donald Trump shared a video Friday of a truck driving in Long Island with a picture on the back of President Biden tied up with a rope. And I'd love to know where to get one of those, because if you have that on the back of your car, you are never getting pulled over by a cop.
NBC News cut ties with Ronna McDaniel after many network hosts protested her hiring. And I'm actually very disappointed, only because I thought Ronna McDaniel was a drag version of Ronald McDonald.
Oh, wow.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill that will ban social media accounts for younger teenagers. But Florida's older teenagers can keep their social media accounts because they need a place to post their sonograms.
All right, well, that's all I've got for you from the boys at the Weekend Update. My first guest of the week is one of my favorite people to talk about the news with, because he can talk about all of it and make fun jokes and observations, great observations about it as well. Very, very smart guy who is co-creator and co-writer of the daily newsletter Today's Big Stuff, which I love reading. It's so funny and it covers so much every day, so consistent. Today'sBigStuff.com. Of course, he's a former White House correspondent, a veteran campaign reporter, and he's got a new gig coming up that I think we'll be able to announce the next time he's going to be joining us. Very, very cool. But go subscribe to Today'sBigStuff.com and let Sam Youngman know on all the social media that you appreciate when he joins me here. I thought he'd be the best guest to help me plug back into news and what I missed in his analysis of the past week as we look forward to the next. Let's do it right now with Today's Big Stuff. Sam Youngman, first guest of the week here on Stand Up. Well, when I'm not paying attention to the news for a week, I just got to go back and read what I missed from Today's Big Stuff, which is why I also reached out to Sam Youngman to join me to give me a kind of rundown of all the big stories I missed over the week and get some reaction to it. So, welcome back. I'm very excited to have you as always, buddy.
Pete, it's so great to be with you, man. You didn't miss anything at all. It was actually the slowest news week ever. America has righted itself. We are a totally functional country now, and everything's good. Yeah.
That's what I figured. I mean, I have, I'm very self-centered. So I think when I'm not paying attention, nothing happens. When I leave town, everything stops.
That's exactly what happened. Yes. It's not you being self-centered at all. That just is exactly what happened.
You are welcome, sweet patriots. I mean,
yeah, man, take a victory lap.
There's so much to talk about. Obviously, maybe we can kind of work our way back from, the latest news. And I'm definitely not up to this. I know you covered it in Today's Big Stuff for Friday, but that apparently Donald Trump went to the wake of this police officer who was killed in a traffic stop. Was that in New York, NYPD?
Yeah, I was in New York, and of course, Fox News and Team Trump are highlighting, this very compassionate act of the former president. They're not talking so much about, the 140 cops that were injured on January 6th that Trump never bothered to call. They're not talking about the 4 cops that died after January 6th that Trump never bothered to call. So I guess he backs some of the blue, which it's not as catchy a bumper sticker, I guess.
He backs some of the blue. I love it.
Yeah. He's bluish, yeah.
Staying on Trump-related news, I guess one of the other huge stories was he started selling more swag, this time with the Trump Bible, which I don't really understand. Like, I don't know who Lee Greenwood is, and it's a Lee Greenwood Bible. And, I mean, bottom line is the guy tries to put his name on anything and just sell it, and that's how he's made a lot of his money. But obviously a lot of people pointed out the ridiculousness of anyone putting their name on a Bible and then profiting from a book that God wrote, apparently, much less someone who hates the Bible like Trump.
That's exactly it. Those royalties are supposed to be going to God. That's her money. And to see Trump stealing it like that is, it's outrageous. It's just endlessly shameless. But I think it also speaks to, man, how desperate he is for money right now. He had this Truth Social valuation that, this obvious pump and dump scheme where he's got billionaires helping to bail him out. And he's still, doing everything he can to screw over his endlessly gullible donor base.
What was the Truth Social valuation thing? He went and got it priced out, and I'm confused. Is it worth 0 or a lot?
Yes. It's the typical pump and dump scheme, right? You've got all these people sort of overinflating the value of this shitty social media platform for right-wing extremists, which, by the way, went down again today. And so you've got this idea, that this thing is worth, hundreds of millions of dollars. It doubled Trump's net worth. But is it really worth anything? I don't think so. I mean, what would you pay for Twitter these days? Imagine a shittier Trump stakes version of Twitter. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, Truth Social went down, is that what you said?
Yes.
Does it go down a lot? That would be.
It's happened. It's happened from time to time. He doesn't have the best people over there.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah. Well, his money woes continue. Apparently, though, the judgment of almost $500 million, like $400 and whatever million, that got knocked down. Not knocked down, but he only has to pay like $175. I mean, is he finding money to pay these loans, and is that a win for him?
Well, I mean, what's crazy is he keeps saying, he keeps getting asked, are you using foreign sources to pay off this money? And he's saying, I'm allowed to do that. And then he walks away. Yeah, you're right. The appeals court in New York did him a huge favor by knocking down the amount of the bond he had to pay to, I believe, $164 million, which is outrageous. It's just how many second, third, fourth, fifth, 5,000 chances does this guy get? I think the idea that nobody is above the law has been tested greatly with former President Trump's bullshit.
I don't know if you're paying attention to this, but it does seem like the hush money trial, that's about to start, right?
Yeah, April 15th, tax day.
Right. Do you think anybody cares? Like, the Trump supporters are just going to be like, yeah, he's awesome. He had sex with a porn star. Like, is that a game changer, that trial, as we watch it play out, that he lied and everything that he did? I mean, I know his wife is probably hiding, right?
I mean, yeah, I can't imagine that's going to be a fun trial for her. But no, to me, it's less about the individual trials and it's more about an accumulation of embarrassments. It's just, while Joe Biden has spent the last 19, 20 days hitting every single swing state there is, Donald Trump is moving back and forth between the golf course and the courthouse. So, I don't know if any individual, one of these legal problems is going to bring him down. But I think the accumulation of them definitely paints a picture of a man who actually doesn't give a shit about law and order, if you can believe that.
Yeah, well, I think that's a pretty good analysis in terms of the aggregate of what's going to be the outcome. Though I do think that when we see the January 6th trial start, and seeing all those images and then if he does, I don't know, the latest timeline of legal experts are saying if he does, I guess he's not going to get convicted anywhere, maybe on the hush money trial before the election. But I just do feel like the January 6th one, if it does play out in front of us the way, with images and video at the right time, it'll have to matter, won't it? It'll have to matter.
I sure hope so. But I would have thought the actual attack itself would matter. And to millions and millions of people, it did not. But I don't know about you, man, but when they were doing the January 6th hearings and they were showing a lot of that footage, I was amazed at how much of a physiological reaction to it I had, just starting to sweat, starting to shake a little bit, feeling sort of the same anger and fear I felt on actual January 6th. So, yeah, I think anytime the country's reliving that horrific day, it's a bad day for Donald Trump, or at least I fucking hope so.
I like the way you said that, and I think what it made me think is I actually, as a result of it, I think I'm saying this out loud for the first time, like I befriended two of the Capitol and more, two of the cops. I don't generally make friends with cops. I have issues with cops. I badmouth cops. Like, I'm not that guy. But these guys, Harry Dunn has become a pretty good friend to me because of the reaction, of the empathy that I had for and saw him. And they were all so vulnerable in their testimony. And we saw the act play out. And I couldn't help but have, empathy for them. And as a result, become so. Yeah, it has. That's exactly how it affected me. I was like, I feel so awful about that. I want to just give you a hug and say hello and talk to you.
Yeah. No, as a recovering degenerate myself, I've definitely had my problems with law enforcement as well. But it's sort of like, that's Trump land for you. You find yourself hating Kanye and defending Liz Cheney. You never know who's on your side. But for me, this is an easy one. That's the people's house that those cops put their asses, their lives on the line to defend. They were literally, putting their bodies between, Trump's army of lunatic thugs and our Constitution, our American democracy. These people are American heroes. And the fact that they haven't gotten that due, frankly, makes me sick. And it makes me worry for sort of the future of this country, that if we can't acknowledge, go back to September 11th, go back to Flight 93. Yeah. You remember, the Todd Beamer quote, "Let's roll." What a rallying cry that was for America, that these everyday Americans sacrificed their own lives to bring down this plane before it could hit the Capitol, before it could hit the White House. And, for us to, now take these sacrifices with a grain of salt or just shit on them altogether, what the hell are we even doing anymore?
Yeah, it's a really good point. Although those were foreign brown terrorists as opposed to your neighbor.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly right. I mean, I don't know about you, but I remember on January 6th, one of my very clear thoughts was, if this crowd was black instead of white, I do not think the response would be the same.
Oh, they would have pulled Gatling guns out of the Capitol. The Capitol would have opened up with a laser and just, yep. Yeah, no.
And you sure as hell wouldn't be hearing Republicans say it was just a normal tourist visit. That's for sure.
One more. I mean, we actually have an example of exactly what happened, because the Black Lives Matter movement that took place in D.C., the president ordered, I think, those protesters can't you just shoot him in the legs? And then he went out, right with the Bible. Right. And I mean, he addressed that protest that got somewhat violent. He tried to stop that. He tried to end that. He obviously allowed January 6th. He encouraged it. He created it and promoted it, and then didn't stop it. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, you mentioned the St. John's Church, the Lafayette Square, and, it's tear gassing American citizens who were peacefully protesting and, walking with his military aides, through this melee, through this scene to hold up a Bible. And, by the way, upside down. Oh, and you can probably get that Bible on Trump.com for $59.99. Hurry while supplies last.
The cover's upright, but when you open it, all the words are facing the other way.
It's just the art of the deal, and then a few Playboy articles thrown together. Yeah,
is that the first time you made that joke? I haven't heard anybody make that joke. That Trump Bible, when you open it, it's just the art of the deal and some porn.
Yeah.
And Andy Dufresne's hammer from what? I don't know why that would be there. Why are you writing about Glenn Youngkin? What is he doing, the governor of Virginia?
Well, remember when Glenn Youngkin was sold to us as a moderate, different kind of Republican when he was running for office? The Beltway media
wore a fleece vest.
He wore a fleece vest, so he must be a moderate, right? Which I still don't understand the line the dots you connect to get there. But no, so Glenn Youngkin had a really bad week. He was really excited to have the Washington Capitals and Washington Wizards groups moving to Northern Virginia and building an arena there. And Democrats said, look, this is a burden on the taxpayers. It's a bullshit move. It's also a shitty thing to do to DC. And so they tanked the deal, and Youngkin is furious. How did he respond? He vetoed two big measures. One, he vetoed a minimum wage increase, which, the party of working people really seems to hate working people. And then the other thing he vetoed was a bill that would have set up the recreational cannabis market there. He said cannabis is bad for Virginia. I mean, Virginians don't seem to think so. So, it seems to me Glenn Youngkin is not a different type of Republican at all. He's a guy who governs from a place of anger and insecurity. And to me, the people of Virginia are missing out because of it.
I didn't know he said that about cannabis. Without looking up, I bet you Virginia's isn't it one of the big tobacco producers, or is that further south?
No, Virginia, Kentucky, that's all big tobacco land.
So
North Carolina, of course.
So tobacco, it's killed billions of people over its lifetime, and cigarettes and tobacco smoking, that's good enough. That's good for Virginia, but cannabis, it doesn't kill anybody bad.
But also, Virginia, just, be cool, man.
Fair enough. Ronna McDaniel, it's been talked about a lot, but I was like, when I'm going through the things that I definitely want to ask is like, I always love Sam's take on anything, and, former journalist, press corps, worked for big media outlets. So what do you think of MSNBC making the ridiculous mistake of hiring her and then 2 Scaramucci's later firing her? And what do you think of, Chuck Todd, who's easy to shit on, and others on air taking the stand that they took?
Just an absolute disaster from top to bottom. I was really gratified to see so many NBC personalities, starting with Rachel Maddow, let's be honest, who has always been, I think, sort of the conscience of that network, just calling out this outrageous hire, somebody who was a part of a coup attempt against the United States of America, somebody who has repeatedly and constantly lied to the American people. And, somebody who changed her name to stay in the good graces of an absolute lunatic. To me, the real danger here is, Republicans never miss a moment to pretend they're outraged by something. So the woman they fired from the RNC, being fired by somebody else is just unacceptable to them. And they're crying and howling. And, Fox News is just so horrified that a network could be so in the tank for a political party, which they would never do, right? So my question now is, what's the backlash to the backlash? Like, what are NBC executives doing right now? We're seeing stories about, Republicans are talking about limiting NBC's access at the Republican convention this summer, which, access is the coin of the realm for these big media outlets. And the idea of losing even a little bit of it makes them sweat in the middle of the night.
If you lose access, if you're NBC and you lose access to the convention, you lose millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, but I also think the Apprentice people are going to be just fine. My question is, what are they doing now to try to get back in the good graces of the January 6th party? Are they offering to give the QAnon shaman, meet the press every other week? I don't know. I mean, it's kind of concerning. I mean, you read
Join
about
us now, the QAnon shaman. Thank you.
Right. Well, I mean, it's crazy. You read about some of the entreaties that were being made to Republicans, like Lester Holt going to D.C. to meet with the RNC and try to convince them to let NBC have a debate. And, you see this one story about, NBC reporters are worried about losing access. It's like, well, is this how you were approaching journalism to begin with, sort of this pay-to-play strategy? Because that does not seem, 1, ethical, or 2, in the best interest of your viewers.
Take on the one valid argument. It's not valid once it's answered, but that liberals or MSNBC doesn't want to provide other points of view.
Well, I mean, Joe Scarborough was not a Democratic congressman. Nicole Wallace did not work for a Democratic president. I mean, these are former Republicans who are on this, so-called liberal network. I think if you ask most progressive Democrats if they think Andrea Mitchell is too hard on President Biden, they would say absolutely. Look, I've always heard that because nobody is better at working than the refs than Republicans are. I'll give you a really good example. A couple of months ago, it might have been, I'm losing track of time. A couple of months ago, an NBC reporter asked Elise Stefanik, member of House Republican leadership and obviously a top Trump surrogate, asked her about Trump being found to be a rapist by a judge in New York in the E. Jean Carroll story. That reporter was the pool reporter, which means they are representative of other reporters traveling with former President Trump. And he was kicked off the plane. He wasn't allowed to travel because he asked that question. And you know what? Shit like that works because I don't think anybody in the Trump orbit has been asked about E. Jean Carroll since then. So, the reality is the Trump team knows how to work the media. They know how to work the press. And one of the things they know how to do best is to threaten access because that's what means more to these people than anything.
Really, really good point. The only point I've been making is it's not about different points of view being presented. It's the idea that you can't platform someone who is going to argue that the moon is made of cheese. And there has to be a threshold with your media company with any media company, any journalist, that we can argue about all kinds of things, but we can't argue about the election. We know who won the election, and so we can't hire election deniers. Arguably, we shouldn't even have them on our air. I mean, I would argue the same about climate denial or Holocaust denial or overt racist. Like, you can't have Alex Jones on MSNBC. That's the rule. And that's who Ronna McDaniel is. She's a election denier. And she helped create the whole conspiracy to begin with at the RNC. So,
yeah, well, I mean, politicians have the luxury of not giving a shit about the truth, but journalists don't. I mean, that's supposed to be like right there at the top of the job description is, protector of truth. And if we've decided, oh, hey, that's flexible, we don't really need that anymore, let's invite the liars on to lie to our viewers, to lie to our readers, then what are you doing? Like, what's the point of having the journalists there? Because I feel like, an iPad on wheels can, transcribe everything just as well as a lot of Capitol Hill reporters can.
And, even more than journalists and their relationship to what's supposed to be the truth, courts. And when it comes to the election, like, you can't point to a court. You could point to a, quote, journalist or a pundit who's going to say anything you want, but you can't point to a court where they were able to prove that the outcome of the election was affected by anything. So I got to ask you apparently about RFK. You've got an item in there. I'm going to say most days in today's big stuff, and I think you should because I think it matters. What happened with RFK while I was with my people getting COVID?
By the way, I hope you feel better soon. It's
I'm so sick, Sam. It's really hard.
Sorry,
Can you come over?
It's a good reminder that we may be done with COVID, but COVID ain't done with us. Speaking of vaccines and modern science and lunatics who don't give a shit about either. RFK Jr. is, the nice thing about politics before Trump was you could sort of take the crazies and set them to the side and find them amusing and a little frightening, but you didn't have to spend that much time on them. But no, now you've actually really got to pay attention to the lunatic dumb shits because they are a very real threat to everything. And RFK Jr. might be the leading lunatic dumb shit we're talking about right now. Just this week, he announced his running mate, Nicole Shanahan. She's a Silicon Valley attorney. Nicole, as you'll probably be shocked to hear, is not the most conventional running mate candidate here. She is the person who funded RFK Jr.'s Super Bowl ad, the one that he was so offensive to the Kennedy family that RFK Jr. apologized for and then pinned as his top tweet.
Yeah, that's right.
No, I love it. But I tell you, the thing that I find really offensive about Nicole Shanahan is her thoughts on IVF. I mean, this is a procedure that has, created families, created American families. And, she has said it's a lie. She has said that sunlight can be just as effective for fertility. And it's just, the kind of dangerous, idiotic conspiracy theories that we hear from people like RFK that are having a really negative and adverse effect on public health. And, I don't know about you, but I know a lot of people who have built families using IVF treatment. And for these cheap politicians, for these, Silicon Valley nut jobs to be attacking this procedure on some kind of whim, to me is really dangerous stuff.
It's a young woman, attractive woman, I guess. And most importantly, she's got a lot of money. She's got
a lot of money.
And so that's why he picked her, because she's a young woman. She's fitting he's casting. All I guess politicians or presidents cast their vice president to get certain demographics to vote, but also money.
Money, I think, is the big one.
Let me just ask you about that. How much does money matter to RFK Jr.? How much does it matter to Trump? How much does it matter to Biden? It always used to matter. It certainly matters in down ballot races like the ones I'm in with Board of Education, much less, House races and Senate races. You need that money. But does it matter with the exception of Donald Trump? Like, can he just go to court every day? Does he need to do any ads? Does get out the vote matter for Donald Trump? And how much does money matter? Because Joe Biden, as you covered in today's big stuff issue, he made $26 million in like a day. Trump hasn't raised that with all his Bibles and shoes and whatever else, dildos he's selling. Biden made it in like a night at one fundraiser. How much does money matter in this presidential election, this specific one with these candidates?
I mean, it's a great question. I mean, for RFK, it matters in that he needs money to go out and hire people to collect signatures to get on ballots in a lot of these states. So for him, it really is a rubber meets the road, nuts and bolts. He needs cash to do that stuff. You're right. Trump is sucking wind when it comes to raising money. The $26 million that President Biden raised in New York City this week with Presidents Obama and Clinton. That's more than twice what Trump brought in for the entire month of February. And, you know, what he does bring in, a shitload of it, $100 million last year went to legal bills.
Mm-hmm.
So for Trump, I don't think it's, you know, he doesn't have trouble getting media attention, obviously. He's basically living on the airwaves. So, you know, his message goes out anytime he picks up the phone and calls a journalist or anytime he goes on TV. But he does need to stay out of prison, and he needs lawyers to do that. So for him, you know, it's about raising money to pay those legal fees. For Joe Biden, it's crucial. You know, Biden's fundraising team has been absolutely crushing it. The numbers they've been putting up have been stunning. And it's really quite simple. You know, Biden has got to use that money to, one, build a campaign infrastructure in these swing states that Donald Trump is not building. You know, you're seeing every day announcements from the Biden campaign about the number of hires they're making in these swing states. They're building a real campaign apparatus. The other thing is this: Joe Biden isn't just running against Donald Trump. He's running against RFK. He's running against Fox News. He's running against Elon Musk and his millions of Twitter followers. He's running against, you know, a New York Times that for whatever reason, but her emails is everything. And that doesn't include Russia, China, Saudi Arabia, North Korea, or any other U.S. adversaries who want to see Donald Trump elected. So, yeah, the reality is, if you're like me, you're disgusted every time you hear about money in politics. But if you want to preserve our democracy and keep it going, we're going to need every penny we can, because the forces aligned against Joe Biden and American democracy are formidable.
I love talking to you, and I got 3 more quick ones. But just heads up, everybody listening, everything I'm asking Sam, he's covered today's big stuff. It's the best daily newsletter. I love it for so many reasons, for the humor, and especially for a lot of things I didn't see anywhere else. I don't know how you do it, but you guys cover so much, including what's happening in the House, which I guess I just want to ask you about 2 things. What's the status with the House Speaker, the Christian Nationalist Accountability Partner, Mike Johnson, and him being called to the carpet by the person who's the craziest in the House, Marjorie Taylor Greene, arguably. What's happening there, and what's happening with James Comer and impeachment? Give me the House report.
Sure. Well, when you said the Speaker of the House, I assumed you were talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, since she's actually been running things from the beginning. Right before they went on another 2-week vacation while leaving Ukraine hanging, Marjorie Taylor Greene filed a motion to vacate against the Speaker of the House, MAGA Mike Johnson. Now, she did not make this privilege so that she didn't force a vote. She says it's more of a warning shot. But yeah, the far right, you won't believe this, but they're not happy, and they're usually such chill, easygoing people. But no, in this instance, they are warning that Trump's handpicked little puppet, MAGA Mike, is not MAGA enough. If he's not, who is? It's kind of scary. But anyway, basically, they're trying to hamstring him. They're trying to stop him from doing deals on Ukraine. They're trying to stop him from doing deals, on government spending. That was the big snafu this time, was he actually found a deal to keep the government open instead of shutting down. And Marjorie Taylor Greene and the rest of the crew are, quite furious that the government stays open, which is, probably why they're fine with a bunch of scumbags attacking the Capitol. And then the other question you ask is, what's going on with Jamie Comer and impeachment? Well, I think I can sum that up by saying this.
Over.
Well
said, sir.
They've got jack shit. They haven't had anything from the beginning. For a long time, they had sort of a gullible, false balance press corps going along with them, but they don't even have that anymore. And just last week, you saw Comer sort of losing his shit, putting everything on the deep state and indoctrination for his, why this isn't happening. Now, look, he's still trying his stunts. They've invited President Biden to come testify, which that's not going to happen. The handful of so-called moderate Republicans, which, let's be honest, is a myth. But the Republicans who were skeptical of voting for this impeachment have been pretty clear that they're not on board. So, yeah, it's going nowhere. Comer's already pivoting to saying he's just going to issue criminal referrals instead, which, let's be honest, there's no evidence of any crime. So those referrals aren't going anywhere. But the thing that is scary that I think we should pay attention to is he's saying he's issuing those criminal referrals so they'll be teed up and ready to go for when Donald Trump comes back to office. So it's very clear that Mr. Presidents should be immune from everything is absolutely ready to start putting his Democratic opponents in jail if he gets the chance.
Well, he's not going to get the chance, is what I say. That's what I say. But
I'm with you.
I guess the last thing I want to ask you is, I don't know, but do you have any thoughts around, I guess we can make fun of the conspiracy theories, but any thoughts around the bridge situation in Maryland, obviously, this cargo ship destroying the bridge I don't even know.
Yeah.
I'm not ready. I've got COVID. I don't even know. I no disrespect to that bridge, and all of the millions of people are going to be directly affected, I suppose, including me. But what's your reaction to that? You covered it. You obviously mentioned it. Everybody did. But is there any takeaways?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Like, I think every one of us, when we saw that video of that bridge coming down, we just gasped. You know, I mean, I think it's everybody's nightmare to be driving across a bridge and it just collapses. I used to live on the Chesapeake Bay. It's, to me, one of the most beautiful parts of America. And I have a lot of love for Maryland and for that area. But just, you know, getting aside, you know, I think first you got to acknowledge the lives that were lost, you know, the workers who were on that bridge who died. And, you know, for one, I think the first thing you got to say is, wow. It's amazing how they sprung into action and saved as many lives as they did. They put out a Mayday call. They stopped traffic.
Yeah.
It could have been so much worse than it was. But the other thing I've been so impressed by is just how quickly both local, state, and federal governments swung into action to sort of reassure people, let them know that they were there, that they, you know, that this wasn't terrorism. It wasn't something nuts. It was, you know, bad shit happens. And when bad shit does happen, you want good people around to respond. And I think everybody from the mayor of Baltimore to the president of the United States have really been engaged on this from the very beginning. But man, it takes your breath away to see that, you know, massive.
The mayor of Baltimore's name is Brandon Scott. Now, he's a DEI appointment. Is that right?
Oof. That's what the extreme right would have you believe. He looks like an accomplished man to me who got more votes than the other person. If that's DEI, then okay. I tell you, the thing I love about this guy is he's this new generation of Democrats just absolutely not taking this shit line down. He went on, I believe it was Joy Reid's show, and he just flat out said, you know, people saying DEI, or they're just trying, it's a new way of saying the N-word. And he's absolutely right. Yeah. And I tell you, every time I hear people just flat out calling this bullshit out, I want to stand up and cheer, because that's what every one of us should be doing.
It was such a ridiculous, I mean, if you knew anything about Baltimore and the mayoral races and candidates and the previous mayors, it's like, DEI, he's the DEI mayor. What do you mean? Like,
right.
What white person was running? Like, who did he? It doesn't make any sense. You're using DEI to talk about what? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. If the whole pool is black folks to vote for, how did he fall into that? It's always been an insidious accusation and really corrupting in terms of the conversation. And
it's just code, right? I mean,
for sure.
Now it's DEI. A year ago it was CRT, and every year before that it was the N-word.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I guess just quick, finally, there was a major Supreme Court decision while I was away as well, not paying attention, about mifepristone. You got any, apparently from what quickly I read, I think in your newsletter, it seems like the conservative justices are not going to get rid of the abortion drug. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I think there are two of them that really want to. Alito and Thomas really made it clear that they would absolutely come for this in a second. They would allow a Republican president to use an antiquated law called the Comstock Act to stop the shipping of abortion medication through the mail. But it certainly looked like enough justices on the court were willing to say that the plaintiffs didn't have standing, and they're going to probably kick this thing out. And let's be honest, it came out of a lunatic Trump Texas judge. This shit never should have seen the light of day. It never should have been the Supreme Court. But look, this is the court that stripped basic human rights from millions and millions of women. So, you know, I don't think any of us can breathe easy until these decisions actually come out.
Man, you're good at this. Real good at this. You're a real newsman.
Well, I really appreciate you, buddy. I know I wish I had some like marketable skills.
Go support patreon.com, today's big stuff, and go read it every day and be like me. Nobody wants to be like me. That's not a great sell. Just go read it because you'll be more informed.
I want to be like you, Pete, when I grow up.
In what ways? Come on. You want to have COVID? You want to look like a fucking gargoyle? What do you want? Look at you.
I want that kick-ass radio voice.
Oh, all right. Well, you can have it. It's mine. With your humor and knowledge, it would go together great. Thank you very much, as always, my friend, for joining me. That was awesome. Thank you.
Pete, it was an absolute pleasure. You feel better, buddy.
Thanks. All right, there he goes. Sam Youngman. So good. Always so good. Today'sbigstuff.com. Go subscribe right now. Go put your email in that. I promise you won't be sorry. You'll get big laughs and all the news. And I use it almost every day to put together my news segment. So there you have it. Thank you, Sam. Great first guest of the week. Let me know who you want to hear the rest of the week. I always want to hear from you. StandUpWithPete@gmail.com. All right, I am still coming down from our gathering, Pod Jam. Looking forward to seeing you this week on Thursday. It's a normal week, I think, here on the show, though Julia does have spring break, so I'm going to try to spend some time, as much time as I can with her, though limited, because I don't want to get her the old coronavirus. Did I just say coronavirus? Whatever. It's just the bumblebees here and I listening, hanging out in the old living room. That is the Stand Up with Pete Dominic podcast ending. Thank you very much for checking me out today. I hope you have a great day, and I am very excited to start my April with you. Tell your friends about the show, please. We always need all the support that we can get to keep it going. Write a rating and review on iTunes, Spotify, if you haven't already. Follow me on all the social medias. And hopefully this week for you bumblebees, you'll be the first to know I'll be announcing the Stand Up with Pete Dominic Marketplace. If you have any kind of business, good, or service, you'll be able to post that on the website and everywhere else and share your goods and services. Maybe make a little extra money, get some new business from the stand-up community. A community you can trust. I don't know. We need a slogan. All right. That's not going to be it. Talk to you later. John Carroll taking us out.
Stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We got to let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. While you lying awake wondering where the money all went, it'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. Alright, we got to speak up, we got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand